Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Welcome to Café and Pastel. Let's welcome our guest here, our host every week, Mr. Cano. Come on in.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Happy Wednesday, and I brought Bless Your Heart with us.
Yay.
So I want to thank everyone for joining us today on CafeYPanDulce, and it is wonderful to walk into the show. That's like,
Feels good,
it
right?
feels so fancy.
I gotta start doing that myself.
Yeah,
next
we'll
week.
have to take turns.
Yeah,
like,
we're gonna
walk
play
into the
musical
show.
chair.
Alexa, stop.
That's the good fun
We're
of
already
seeing
having
live.
I'm
technical
trying
problems.
to share your post.
Yes. Lady Gaga, I'm going to move your glasses just for a second.
Bless your heart.
Yes, bless your heart. Everyone, welcome to our show, CafeYPanDulce. Today is Wednesday, April 24th. It is a gorgeous day here in Charlotte. And
24.
yeah, is that crazy?
2 days for my baby turns 1 year old.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
My Rico.
We'll have to sing happy birthday
Yes.
to your
He'll be at home barking.
oh.
Oh, it's her dog. Oh my God. That's
That
hilarious.
sounds like we'll all right. Well, welcome to our show. I'm Christian Cano. I want to welcome you to CafeYPanDulce. Once again, today is April 24th. Thank you for watching us live on Facebook Live or on your favorite social media app, or later on YouTube, or the other channels that we're on, like Instagram and all that wonderful fancy stuff. Today, we're going to talk about some great issues, but first, let's introduce our guests. While I share this, we'll start from our right because they're always right.
We know when to start from Durham.
Yes. Oh, Alexa, stop. Sorry.
Thank you, Alexa.
Thank you, Alexa.
That's supposed to be mariachi. Was that mariachi music?
Yeah.
It was like slow. Okay, I'm sorry.
Old-fashioned mariachi.
We'll start from our right. Go ahead, ma'am.
Barbara Bacon.
Hi, Barbara, tell us who you are.
Yeah.
What do you do?
She just said Barbara Bacon.
And I did the pig thing already.
You gotta do
that again.
That's
Now
right.
live. My last name's Bacon, so I'm with the pig.
And that's from Manolo's Bakery. Manolo's?
Manolo's Bakery.
You
Yes.
gotta come to.
And I'll have to let you know what I think of it after I eat it.
Well, if you've never eaten one of the pigs,
I haven't.
I would recommend you eat
Oh,
one of
Does
the
it
other
taste
ones
like bacon?
first.
No.
No, those are us.
Ours,
Maybe
it looks
they
like
should
it,
add a new
Ours, I
ingredient.
would always be eating it.
it looks
Oh,
like it
yeah.
might be a gingerbread flavor.
It's like a
It's-
ginger.
it's
Well, that
Okay.
gingerbread.
It doesn't
Yeah.
have ginger, but it's like the similar to
But everything tastes better with bacon.
it.
I would not disagree with that.
Okay.
Barbara, welcome. She's a neighbor of ours, and you were on a show maybe less than a month ago or so, and
Yes.
you were talking about the opioid
opioid
crisis.
Well, actually,
Okay.
she is pharmaceutical.
I
Give your
said-
title.
I
Give your
said-
little bio.
I'm a healthcare advocate mostly for patients, but I do get involved in Medicare and Medicaid things. And I spent 35 years in the pharmaceutical industry, so it's just my thing that I do.
Excellent. Thank you.
HIPAA keeps me from doing some of the things I used to do, and I have to be respectful of that, but people always need help, so.
Excellent.
And we're glad to have you here, Barbara, because you're always advocating for the medical, Medicare, and all that. But I mean, it's not only advocating for that particular, but I've seen you in several forums and several meetings, and you're very, educated and educating yourself about whoever's going to be taking places in the shares and stuff. So we are glad to have you here, and thank you for joining us and accepting our invite.
Yes.
Good morning, Ruth Perez here, community advocate also for the city and for my entire community. So I'm happy and blessed to be here every single Wednesday.
I'm Jeff Scott, man about town, candidate in the 9th district, so I'm always just on fire. And always happy to be here. Bless your heart.
You said it so sincerely.
Nancy.
Hi, I'm Tera Long. I'm an advocate for Medicare for All on the Healthcare Justice NC Board, and welcome and thank you, Cano, for always hosting us and being such a part of our community.
Well, thank my other two partners in crime.
And we don't want to forget.
colleagues.
And we don't want to forget his improved barista skills.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
This is the second
This is the second
week of
week.
my coffee, and it is so
Much better than it was before.
It's so coffee-ish that
I just told her, right?
that Barbara and I
coffee.
salute.
Let's salute.
Yeah,
Cheers.
all right.
Coffee,
I just know
coffee.
that's going to go on the computer once. So.
Oh.
That's okay. An excuse to get a new one. Before we
Thanks,
start,
Andrew.
yeah. Before we start, let's talk about buttons.
Yes. Well, I just joined Healthcare Justice.
Oh, yay!
Yay!
If you're not a member of Healthcare Justice, please join. Go to Tera's page or any of our pages. I think there's no. It's the best deal in town. There's no fee, no charge for it.
Correct.
And you just sign up, and you're a member of Healthcare Justice. So your button's about Medicare for all.
Yes.
Okay. You want to say anything about it, or? you
Well,
wanna say-
I just
Oh, okay.
attended my first meeting,
Oh,
so
okay.
I just got the update on the new events that
Yes.
are gonna be occurring in my little duties that I'm gonna do.
Oh
and
yes,
things
yeah, we
like
had
that,
homework
but-
from our last
Um,
legislative meeting.
But there were a lot of people not there, so I haven't met the
Homework.
entire group yet, but I'm looking forward to it. I understand there's other doctors that I missed and things, which I have no fear of doctors, so they better look out.
Good.
Tom Bowers will go, oh my God.
Miss Perez.
Good morning.
Mrs. Perez.
I'm not wearing
Single.
any buttons
You have a
today,
name tag with
but
it.
I am. I just came back from our monthly
International Cabinet.
international cabinet meeting in the mayor's office, and actually, you know what? I'm very excited because we talked about our Charlotte Future 2040, and I'm glad everyone's here today because it's a good presentation that what I received, and I would like to share just a little piece of it. And I guess that involves Medicare, politics, everything, because it's about our neighborhoods.
Okay. My button is National Organization of Women. Once again, the North Carolina General Assembly, we're pushing to get the equal ERA passed in North Carolina. So that way it can be passed at the federal level. So National Organization of Women for everything they do. And I really like the National Organization of Women, and I know Tera's going to finch at me, or do something, she's going to kick me under the table.
Flinch?
I really, yeah, that's what I meant.
Yes,
Flinch.
flinch.
Thank you, Jeff. I really like the National Organization of Women because these are feminists who are advocating for everyone, not just themselves. I mean, they are advocating for immigration rights, for women, for men, LGBT, just equality overall, and that's a great organization. And I'm going to say this, unlike many of the people who are members of the Women's March, who you only see once a year with their pink hats, these are women who actually are in the trenches, 12 months a year, which I appreciate. Not everyone can do 12 months a year, but
Melba
is just incredible.
You know, I take off my hat for her. She actually, besides that, I've seen her providing bus passes to the Latin American
They
Coalition
do.
so they can help our community, especially with our immigrants, not to be driving on the car. So she provides them bus passes so they can kind of move around.
Yeah.
So it's
They
really
do
good.
a lot of, so, and men can join. I'm a member. I said that last time. I'm
Bless
a male,
your heart.
I'm a male member. They meet at Wedgwood Church.
Yeah.
Jeff.
My button is the Tri-Curious button,
Okay.
which usually gets trotted out around Pride season. But I wanted to mention that the fact that, you know, Alan can't be here this week because
Yes, he's
he's
on the
traveling.
show next week.
Alan is the Green Party candidate, and as we get closer to the Republican primaries and then we get into the real general election, we're going to be hearing more from third-party candidates such as myself and Alan.
Oh, excellent.
In fact, I think we're trying to formulate some kind of statement about the imprisonment of Julian Assange, and as you know, I think the public 3-1 is against him and thinks he should be in jail and thinks he should be prosecuted. But we take a minority position, and we think he should be defended in the First Amendment grounds and other grounds. So.
Okay, and I know we talked about the last show kind of briefly about who he was. He
Yeah.
was the gentleman from WikiLeaks.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, I know we have to project our voice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know we talked about that.
Thanks
Yeah,
for the
so
reminder.
anyway, so let me just give a plug to Alan because he is a third-party candidate, and
He's
we should
the
be
dancer.
paying. And we should be
Yeah.
paying-
Go back
we
on our
should be
page
paying
and watch
attention.
the after
On the
video.
dance?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. Tera,
Cano's gonna teach you how to dance, and I can't
Yes.
wait.
is that scary? I'm going to be her instructor.
Oh,
There's so much pressure. Medicare for all,
Okay.
you want to say anything
Yeah,
briefly
sure.
about this?
So Medicare for all, we believe that all individuals should have access to a quality health care, not just the ones that afford it. Can afford it. Cano's right. I'll post a link on my website today and post it on this feed as well. It's free to join. The physicians, there's a team of physicians spearheading this. They will email you with information, updates, and events. Cano always goes to our events, and we're so grateful. He also serves on the legislative committee as well. So
And we do want to have a show
with Dr. Sachs.
with Dr. Sachs in an entire show about Medicare for all, because this is going to be really exciting to have
Yes.
Jeff on the show with that, and maybe even Alan. You know,
Yeah.
we really want to talk about Medicare for all because we've had conversations about it.
Right.
This is one of those issues. I know everyone accuses you of like,
Yeah.
what were they saying that you were like
I don't know.
revenging my boss or
He's
something?
finding out
Or
right now.
Oh yeah, there's so much.
We need to let
There's so much.
let
There's
him
so
in
much.
prior to the
Oh,
show.
that's right.
So there's a lot of crap on social media about people saying.
For real.
Yeah.
Bless their
I know
hearts.
that's a shocker to you,
Yes.
but
I'm gonna be like Osorio.
But
I'm getting out of Facebook.
yeah, no, I follow Chris's tweets and he follows mine and some of the other postings on Facebook and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of interesting exchanges there, and some people get very angry and heated, and I confess sometimes I'm one of them. But I try to keep it cool. I'm a candidate. I'm supposed to be a professional,
Yes.
trying to reach
And-
out
and I'm
to
gonna-
voters.
I'm going to interject. As a mother
Mhm.
figure, we attack policy. We don't attack people.
Correct.
That's right.
That's true. And I
Yes.
think we do. They just happen to have names.
You're just not supposed to say it.
We should be nice to everybody.
As we
Attack
do
their
that,
policy.
I know everyone's mouth is salivating. Our
Oh, yes.
Pandulce today is a combination between Mexican and
And
it's from Manolo's Bakery.
Manolo.
So please help yourself to save the pig for me, for those who
Oh,
know
Barbara
that I like
doesn't
it.
get to have the pig.
I'll have that
Barbara, if
little
you want the
piece
pig,
in
that's
there.
fine, because I can't really eat it. I've got some more in the kitchen.
I'll
So
have
please.
that.
Oh, you got some
enjoy
more pigs in the
I
kitchen?
do.
He does
I
like
do.
bacon.
I do.
So, yeah.
Yes, they are.
Because they're not too
Okay.
sweet,
This looks
and they're
good, too.
not. They're dense.
That one's the bomb.
This.
Okay.
That one's really good.
Oh, yeah,
Should I
okay,
have
this
gotten
is the
some?
one.
I'm sorry.
Here.
No,
And
this
I
is
should have
everything.
used napkins instead of my hands.
Oh, that's okay.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Wow, y'all are.
So,
I'm
Girl,
good.
even though it's a fancy table, we're still in the hood.
Yes. So we want to go ahead and talk about.
yeah, that is good.
Yes.
We've gone into our first topic
What does Cano want?
pretty deep.
Wait a minute, before you go
Sure.
on, let's welcome our new picture for the
Oh
scenario.
yes. So
right
those who
here.
follow us, we have an original. Our family now has an original Rob Paris. He's an artist from Charlotte. He originally, I believe, is from Virginia. He lived in Atlanta for a while, but he actually was used to work for Bank of America for many years, and then his passion has always been art. He's a graphic designer, and he does art, and he's got incredible work. He also has a lot of work at the Sleepy Poets Antique Mall on South Boulevard. You can see a lot of his work. That's where we saw this painting. And my mother-in-law, she bought a smaller one, and it was just really incredible. And I know your family are into
Yes.
art. You're like our cultured person. So,
Ah,
And implying that the rest
Yes.
of us aren't?
so yeah,
There-
I don't know if you want to say anything or just.
Well, if anybody's interested in the cultural
Sure.
events coming up this weekend, I think there's a musical at Halton, which is a CPCC called She Loves Me,
Oh.
which I'm going to try
I
to
like
see.
musicals.
I'm going to hear
How
some.
much does it cost?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know the cost. I think it's a different.
Where
theater
is it at?
production.
UNC?
CPCC.
Oh, CPCC.
CPCC.
It shouldn't be that
Yeah,
expensive.
it's
And I think some of the other plays at the Theater Charlotte and ATC won't be starting until early June, so there's nothing currently at those. But there is also Charlotte Ballet this weekend.
Oh,
The spring,
yeah. I get a
the
lot of
spring-
emails
the spring
about
show.
the
So
symphony.
if you like
Yeah.
dance and you like ballet, actually even if you don't like dance and don't like ballet, you should at least give Charlotte Ballet a try, because they're a really great
I've not
cultural
been.
Yeah, I
asset
haven't either.
to the whole
We did
region.
in Baltimore, but.
Yeah, and their shows are very moving. They've got a very talented dance company So I highly recommend them.
Excellent. All right. Our first topic is going to be, we're going to talk very briefly about this because we've gone over a little bit on our first segment. Treatment of Congressperson Ilhan and women of color in general. It's difficult to talk about this without having a African American or a person of color. So we won't specifically talk about how women are. You're a woman of color,
Yes,
so you can
and
talk.
I was going to say that.
But it's
But then I said, maybe because I shine my hair, I should have just wear an afro, and that way,
And the reason that we wanted to talk about, or I wanted to talk about this, because of the events that happened last week, which were blown up and backfired to the individual. And
I think it was just money flying around and nobody wanted it.
Well, tell the story, right?
What happened was, it actually started with Dan Bishop. Dan Bishop had done some commercials.
Yeah.
Or he did a small media buy
Yeah.
with him and then the little clowns. And the
Right.
clowns, one of them was ALC, one of
Yeah.
them was Nancy Pelosi, and one
Right.
of them was Dan McCready.
Right.
And it was, and his thing was, I don't, the liberals are clowns, or
Right.
I didn't see it. But
Yeah,
it was
they're
something
like
that.
crazy clowns or
Yes.
something.
Yeah.
And
So-
so he was just trying to ridicule all of the people that conservatives tend to
Which,
hate.
and you comment, you said that was a stupid, silly.
Yeah, yeah.
You didn't say stupid,
I
but you
thought
said
it
it was
yeah.
silly the
It was,
first time.
Yeah, it's
Amateurish.
low class.
Yeah. Well, 4 days after that, Dan McCready
Mhm.
made a decision to return a donation from Congressperson Ilhan.
I don't think that's true. I think he made the decision way back in March, and I think it was just revealed. I think he had done that before, but
Well,
I'm not certain of the
The
timing.
observer
Yeah.
said that it was
Yeah.
4 days after that he made the
Okay.
decision.
Okay.
And that after 4 days after, and then this is what I think happened. We don't
Okay.
know what happened because Dan McCready
Yeah.
never tells anybody
That's right.
what happened.
Mhm.
Joe Bruno, who's a
Mhm.
reporter for WSOC, Channel
Yeah.
9, or
Right.
whatever channel that is, I
Yeah.
don't watch the channel, but
Yeah.
Channel 9, he's known for getting things that are leaked to him by Dan McCready's campaign. They leaked the, they did the screenshot of when I called him a coward
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
word back in 2017.
Yeah.
Joe Bruno broke that story.
Yeah.
Joe Bruno broke the story about the absentee ballot information, because I
Mhm.
believe Dan McCready knew about it and leaked the story to Joe Bruno, so Joe
Mhm.
Bruno went to investigate it.
Yeah.
They were leaking Joe Bruno all this information from the campaign. That's how Joe Bruno
Yeah.
was ahead of everyone else.
Right.
And then WBTV decided to do an opposite type of thing. So Joe Bruno tweeted last week that Dan McCready has returned
Yeah.
$2,000 from Congressperson. I believe that was leaked to Joe Bruno,
Mhm.
with the understanding that people would go, "Oh, that's great." It backfired.
Yeah.
And then Joe Bruno retweeted his own tweet and said, a spokesperson for Dan McCready said, because it's all
Yeah.
orchestrated,
Yeah.
and it said, because she's divisive or whatever,
Right.
which was a huge mistake.
Yeah.
That got, people picked it up, it got shared everywhere,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and then, and then he tried to backtrack on it, the people are asking me so and so. So, anywho, make a long story short, she was kind of thrown under the bus by
Yeah.
the Democratic nominee in the 9th Congressional District, because he didn't have to tell anybody anything.
right.
He could have just said nothing about it. He has never said anything about President Trump being divisive, or even any Republican being divisive. The only person he's ever talked about is me and the Congressperson.
Yeah.
So what I said was, and I think many people have understood this, is that I think his true colors have started to come out.
Mhm.
Dan McCready is a bless your heart racist and bigot from Charlotte. You have to go by his actions and his words.
Mhm.
He never supports or compliments people of color, never attends neighborhoods of color events, whenever there's some type of, whenever there's an event, something going on in Charlotte, he never shows up. That's in my view, that's
Yeah.
the way he is, and I think people finally were able to see it.
Mhm.
So what really upset me was the fact that Dan McCready was pretty much handpicked by Nancy Pelosi to run for office. Seth Moulton, he was part of that Seth Moulton
Yeah.
kind of group and was
Yeah.
handpicked. Nancy Pelosi endorsed him,
Mhm.
gave him money when he ran against me. The DCCC staff works for Dan McCready, which is Nancy Pelosi. And so Dan McCready has never called Nancy Pelosi divisive, has never, all he said is he wouldn't vote for her.
Right.
But he made a point to come out to say that our one of the very few women of color and Muslim congresspersons is a divisive character. When me growing up, because I have become accustomed to the bless your heart individuals in Charlotte, it's as if though if you're of color and you speak out, you're divisive, and that's you're trying to, you have to be put in your place, and that's the way. To me, it was that way. That's all I'm going to say
Can I
about
ask
this.
a question?
Please.
Sure.
So was this a direct quote from Dan, or was this from his staff?
From Dan.
It's from his Twitter feed.
It's from his
Yeah.
Twitter feed,
Personal.
and then he commented
His Twitter
afterwards.
feed called somebody else divisive.
Yes, the congressperson.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it was one of those things where, and I've said this many.
Then he removed it, didn't he?
He didn't remove it. He tried to
kinda hide
backtrack
it.
and said this is. Then he did like Trump did in Charlottesville.
Yep.
Oh,
They're bad people on all sides,
Mhm.
which is like it was like worse to say. Which, you know, when you're digging yourself out of that kind of situation, it would have been just great to say.
It's best to
It
stop
didn't work
talking.
out.
Which, you know, and of course all of the McCreadyites were, you know, oh, you know, he's made one little mistake and this. Well, you know, those of us who make one little mistake, we get thrown over the coals for it. But when he
For
makes a
years.
mistake, when he makes a mistake, it's like, oh, you know, when he called me an a-hole at the thing, oh,
Yeah.
it was just a mistake,
Right.
and this. There is a different standard.
Didn't
and
I
I think-
have the video?
Yes.
I'm
there is-
not in this.
Oh, you were there too.
Was I there?
you were there.
Memory one.
Oh, at the Valley Political Caucus?
Yes. But you also have to put things into context as well. This was
Yes, I
last
was.
week this has all happened.
Yes.
This was the week that many of us in Charlotte were outraged about the video camera release and about
Yes.
a black man being killed again by the CMPD.
Correct.
Dan McCready couldn't say a word
Towards that.
about any of that. But he has the time to say,
Yeah.
this congressperson
But
is
keep
divisive.
in mind, he only represents District 9, so of course, the video was released and the murder took place in the west side. So I guess he thinks that he doesn't have no input for it.
Well, I'm just
No.
gonna say a couple of things. You know, I don't like him. I don't like him because he's not very courteous to me. But I wouldn't go so far as to call him a racist. You can do that all you want, but I think that his campaign is very well organized, and they're very shrewd at what they do. This is a little bit of a stumble. I think they're going to recover from this. I think that they got massive amounts of money, and they've got professional help. They're gonna breeze through this. They're gonna blow through all of this, and no one's gonna remember it in a month.
Jeff,
And I wish
Jeff.
that were not the case.
No, Jeff,
I wish that were not the case.
I think that people are, and those who have not run for office, and I know you run for office, those of us who have run for office, you look at Dan McCready's campaign, and it's very difficult for any rational individual to say that this is run by professional individuals. These are young. Aaron is his chief political strategist. They got all these titles: deputy political strategist in Union County.
I know Aaron. I know.
Yeah,
I've
yes.
met people on his staff. I don't like
they're
them very
all
much.
white guys.
Yeah.
One African American person
Yeah.
they hired
Yeah.
to attend the Black Political Caucus meeting, and so forth. They're all white guys who live in a very privileged world, whose world they don't have a lot of worldly experience. Because if they did, someone would tell them, "You've got to be out campaigning. You've got." I don't believe that even the I don't believe the DCCC is running the campaign.
They've got a strategy. They're going to stick to the strategy.
I hope they
and
stick
if
to
it
it.
doesn't,
Because
and
it was
if it doesn't,
successful the last time,
because
so
it was-
they're gonna do it
yeah,
again, right?
well, it was close enough last time.
Well, that's what
right?
they keep saying on TV, you know?
Yeah. So any Republican, I mean, now we can
Yeah.
segue on to what
Yes.
we
So,
heard about the Republicans.
Well, as a woman of color, do you feel that women of color are treated differently in Charlotte and North Carolina?
Yes,
Okay.
Differently than what?
many ways.
Okay, one example.
Just at a job,
Mm-hmm.
if there's a promotion
Mm-hmm.
and you have to put it out there
Mhm.
and everyone has to apply for it,
Mm-hmm.
the priority, they give priority to the minority
Mm-hmm.
person. I've seen it in my case.
Mm-hmm.
Then looking at your qualifications and stuff, they just go by sometimes the look.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. They get paid lower.
Mm-hmm.
If you see the majority of the staff at a McDonald's, fast food restaurants, fast food restaurants and other places that are not too high escalated, they get more employees of color than regular executive profile ladies. That's what I've seen. Even school, my child attends to, and I hate to sound not racist or talk about, because this is not the table that we're supposed to be talking about this, but
Yes, it is. This is the
well,
Coffee
yeah,
Podcast
but
show.
I
We can talk
mean,
about whatever we want to.
and I understand, but I mean,
Yeah.
I feel that we shouldn't, because our goal is to change people's mentality.
That's correct.
Right.
Yes.
So my son attends to a school where it's 97.5% of white kids.
Mhm.
The other percentage, it's Asians or, Middle Eastern, and there's only 4% of Latinos in our county. My son, it's probably one out of probably only 10 students that are attending that school. So as
One of only
Latino,
10 Latino.
Yeah.
yes. And when I go in and then look at the staff and stuff, if we have one African American person in the school staff, not in the cafeteria, for the school staff, it's a lot.
This
So not representation.
No, there's not opportunities.
this is how I define, bless your heart, racism and bigotry.
Mhm.
And this is what people, I think.
And this is only on the south side, and that's what I've noticed here.
Exactly. It's on this side
Yes,
of town.
it's on this side.
The
There's no opportunities.
Union County, not really in Fayetteville. I've been to Fayetteville.
No.
It's very different. The bless your heart racism and bigotry is this attitude and idea that when I tell you, and I see I as in if I was a black woman, a black man, an LGBT person, whatever, if I say to someone, I feel living here discriminated against because how I've been treated.
Mhm.
Now, regardless of how I form that opinion,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty logical individual. I've never felt this kind of racism and bigotry except living in Charlotte. And so for me to say that, anyone who knows me, anyone who's worked with me over the 30-something years in the hospitality business know that that's not the type of individual. But for me to say that, that conclusion has come from this, there's data that I've absorbed.
Mhm.
So when I say it,
Mm-hmm.
and someone says to me, or they say to an African American person, or a black person, or a Hispanic person, whatever, or even a white person, no, that's not right. I just told you how I feel,
Yeah.
and you're telling me
And you're entitled to say.
you're not.
Right.
That's not true. That's not true. That's bless your heart racism.
Mhm.
We don't do the same thing to. If we did the same thing,
Yeah.
We'll
let's
be
say
back.
let's say to the Me Too, the white women,
Mhm.
and they said, I feel as a woman that I've been objectified and I've this. Can you imagine if we said, no, you don't feel that way?
Yeah.
But yet it's okay to say that to people of color.
Yeah.
And that is the blesser, because whenever I say Dan McCready has never criticized a person of color, he's never supported a person of color, he's never even said killing black people is bad or killing brown people, he's never said any of that. When I say that, and as I think a pretty rational individual that is amongst individuals, when I say those actions and words I can only deduce from what I've seen, what I've heard, that either he lives in a completely different world than most of us, or there are, bless your heart, racism and bigotry that I see in other individuals. When I say that and someone tells me, you're wrong, I'm telling you how I feel.
Right.
Now, because the bless your heart is as if though you don't have the right to say how you feel, but I can tell you how you should feel. That's the bless your heart. And so the reason I say that, and I continually say that, is because it does get frustrating for someone like me, who I don't benefit at all from playing the LatinX card or playing the LGBT. I don't benefit. My entire career, and even politically, people didn't know I was gay. I don't use that as a way to move myself up. I've always used
That's
my
true.
credentials.
You have.
And so when I see something that actually has hurt me, you know, so when I see something that is, to me, I see in other people, I see when I go to other parts of town how they are treated and how they, when I say, this is what I've seen in Charlotte, and then I have the Democracy, bless your heart women, telling me, you're race baiting, you're doing this. I'm telling you what I see. I'm telling you how I'm seeing it. And that is bless your heart racism. I'm sure there's a term for it. I don't know what the term, but that is, in my view, it's like this plantation mentality that you have to see it the way I tell you you see it.
Well, you can see it just by the females of color that have run in the Congress.
Yeah.
You can see it in different states.
That's how we started
you
this
know,
conversation.
you can see how they always attack them. Like last night, I was hearing an attack about
exactly.
You know, just because she's colored.
AOC,
That's the way I took it. Just because she's a lady of color.
You have all these
was being
Republicans
attacked.
that are so obsessed with AOC. They're like, oh, she's like this terrible person. They never, and they use Nancy Pelosi as a person, as like the devil person. And they use, first of all, they use women in general.
Explain to what we went to last night, because I think some of your audience might. Most of it. Jeff was not there, but we all.
That was a very polite way for Tera to get us off the subject.
Yeah.
So we're going to get off this subject, and we're going to talk very briefly about NC09 election update. Let me. I gotta say this because I know you.
I wonder why Jeff didn't go.
I went to the previous one.
No.
That's right.
This was totally different.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just tired of young Republicans.
I questioned that to Cano last night. I said, "Is this the young?"
Oh yeah, that was kind of funny. We were the young Republicans. There was like 4 young Republicans. But you know, let me just say this, Jeff. The reason I appreciate you so much is because you are a person who's usually you're very what's the word I'm trying to use?
No clue.
We don't know where you're going. Help us out.
Dashing.
Jeff and I do not agree on a lot of things. But you would not know that.
No comment on dashing?
You would not know that because he is.
I couldn't help myself.
He allows me to say what I have to say, so I appreciate that, Jeff. Because
Yeah,
I know
just
that
because of you, we were questioned last night. Cano, you're here.
Yes.
Why are you here? Because you endorsed that libertarian guy.
Okay, so you had asked that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
last
that's
night
great.
was the Mecklenburg County Young Democratic
great.
Party's
No,
candidate for
Republican.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Republican.
Whoa!
Republican.
Today is Democrat.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So the Republican, it was at Dilworth Grill. We all went because we wanted to see. I think it's important for all of us to be educated on everybody who's running.
Everybody.
And
Exactly.
we went, and
in
they were
case
very
someone
they were
wins.
very gracious to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
You know, many of them knew who I was, and they said, you know, hi, how are you? But as soon as I was walking down the stairs, Morrell, what's the
Jim Morrill.
Jim Morrill
Yeah.
from The Observer was at the stage, and he goes, "What are you doing here?" I mean, literally like that. And I said, "I'm an American." He said, "No, what are you doing in a Young Republicans?" And I said, "I'm an American, and you need everyone's vote to win elections."
Yeah.
So he didn't. I shook his hand
He
because I
didn't
didn't
know
really
how to
want to have.
respond.
He didn't know how to respond. He was like,
He
you know,
wasn't
what?
expecting you to say
Yeah, I was like,
anything.
what do you do? I mean, that's like I don't have the right to be now.
Yeah.
So we went there, you know, we sat down, Tera was there, I didn't know Tera
Yeah.
was going to be there. Tera
Yeah.
was there, which is great.
Yeah.
Barbara showed up, but Ruth was there. And so we sat, and there were some independents and Republicans, and some of the candidates, only 4 of the candidates showed
Yeah.
up. Stoney, Dan Bishop,
Lee.
5.
Yeah, I saw the
Lee,
picture.
Stevie,
the young lady
Stevie,
from
and
Fayetteville.
and
then
that old
the
low
Republican.
lady, I don't know
The-
where she's from.
Nancy
Fran
Reagan.
Okay,
Yes,
Fran.
Nancy
Yeah.
Reagan.
Fran.
No,
So they had a
Fran.
conversation.
Fran Sharp.
It was
Fran is
He's
sharp,
so
and
bad.
She got a haircut
It was-
too. I thought she looked terrific.
Well, so finish your point.
Haircut,
It was a
okay.
very interesting debate.
Okay, so what were the most interesting insights you had about the sort of policies that
I'll let y'all talk.
that they disagree on?
Well, the only thing, so first of all, what I noticed was they aren't mean to each other. Sometimes in the Democratic forums, we slaughter each other, and they were very cordial with each other. Stoney Russian was the only one that was like, I'm the only one that's going to win.
Yeah.
Like, he was the only one that really put it out there that they were
Well,
gonna.
Stevie got in her shots too, though. I mean,
She did?
I
yeah.
think she's really good, but I think the one that was kind of battling and going against them was the other girl.
The blonde,
the blonde,
Lee
blonde
Brown.
Lee.
Yeah.
Lee.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
because she
Well,
was being attacked.
regardless, it was very kosher compared to the Democratic
Oh, yeah.
forums. It was very
But the
proper
rebuttal
and very.
process
Was
was
good.
very.
I
And I
liked
did
it.
miss the
I liked
rebuttal
that
because I
format.
did leave like about
That was
5
really
minutes
good.
Right, that
early.
was
I
really
think
good.
candidate forums can. I don't know
Yeah.
that format that was there last night,
Yeah.
where they all got 3 rebuttals, and that was a
And
really
they
good.
were all like, "How many rebuttals do I have?"
Yes, how many do I
Like,
have?
I know,
Yeah,
I
they're like,
know.
do I still have time for one more?
Yeah, give me
Because
one more.
because the Republican Women's Forum that we
Yeah.
attended
Right,
was
Very-
was a
Super-
little it was too
super
structured.
Like what we see
Yeah.
with the Democrats.
And you know, they asked one question on which everybody agreed, and which was really boring because you didn't
Yeah.
didn't get any fireworks.
No, this
at
one
all.
was pretty good.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah, I
enjoyed it.
really enjoyed it. It was
Yeah.
a lot. You got
Okay.
to see personality and a little substance,
Yeah.
and even a few zingers, but
Mhm.
nothing nasty. But
Yeah.
the gentleman that gave the invocation before it started said, "Please, let's be nice and not be nasty." And I'm like,
But-
"Oh,
but-
So
come on now."
I don't. There are certain aspects of this primary that I don't like the tone of. Like
Yeah.
I don't like this whole approach to Democrats believe in infanticide,
Mhm.
and I've been trolling their Facebook
Yeah.
pages and Twitter saying, find me a Democrat
Mhm.
who believes that healthy born babies
Yeah.
should be killed.
They don't.
It is-
And
it is-
I know that I can't, you know, and I offered on Dan Bishop's page. I think I offered a $25 reward if you can find a Democrat who believes that, because we'll have them on this show and they'll advocate for it. Okay,
Yeah.
you'll actually hear it. It doesn't exist. It's like the snipe. It's like the, you know.
If you're not used, if you don't have family members
Mhm.
that are Republican, or if you don't have
I
family
do.
members that are,
Yeah, I do.
So
Yeah.
for me, it was not any different than what I hear at some of my family
Sure.
events.
Yeah, I mean,
It's rhetoric
it's
that you
just
go,
hit
you kind
hair
of roll
on-
your
No,
eyes.
that was really calm. You should be at my family.
No, no.
Like,
You know,
there's a lot of
so
us.
there was a lot of stuff that was kind of over the top. You know, it was the liberals, the
Yeah, I know. I mean,
AOC,
I can't
and
stand
Democraty's
that,
going to vote with Nancy Pelosi. Democraty's not going to vote with Nancy Pelosi. First of all, he's not going to get to Congress, so he's not going to be able to do that. But even if he was,
Yeah.
Democraty's going to be an obstructionist. He's
Yeah.
going to be more working against Democrats than he is Republicans. So he's not going to vote with
Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi. That's his whole.
He's already said he was.
He's already said he's going to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I understand that's the rhetoric. It's kind of funny because they buy into.
Right.
I love the way they.
Everybody's positioning
But
themselves.
it was funny how they all Trump, my president Trump. They're pandering to the base.
Yeah.
The only
I
thing
looked
that
around and I didn't see that many people going like,
yeah, no.
They were just like,
and see, something that they usually undercover themselves with is, like, I've heard 3 of them. Every time they will answer a question,
sure,
they'll say, "Vote for me because I'm Christian."
yeah. Well,
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it. I mean, if you really are a Christian, you know, the Bible says for you to protect the immigrant. And
Yes.
you're over here talking about you're going to do all these rules if you go up in Washington. And then at the same time, I believe in pro-life. I'm like, you know, that's not right.
Yeah, I don't like the tone of the Republican primary. As you know, I'm a secular candidate.
Mhm.
So when I hear the Bible thumping and the, you know, I'm a better Christian, or I'm a deeper Christian, or I'm more of a fundamentalist, I'm more of an evangelist, that turns me off.
Well,
Well,
this
what
is
about the separation of church and state? When
Well,
several of them said
yeah.
that,
Oh, yeah.
my hair stood up. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
that
I'm
is.
like, wait a minute.
But-
This is a political thing.
But I
Why
think
are
we
talking-
were able,
Just
and
talk
Tara,
louder.
you being there, I think that was really good that we were able to see, and I hope many people go to all kinds of
Oh,
forums,
absolutely.
whatever.
Yeah.
And the reason this is very important is because it highlights the difference between how we run elections in North Carolina, and specifically in Mecklenburg County. Republicans, and I've said this over and over, Republicans run to their base
Yeah.
and they win the elections.
That's right. So we're not
Democrats
surprised by any of this.
No,
Yeah.
Democrats,
Yes.
it is Democrats that don't run to their base lose their elections.
Mhm.
It's very, very simple. Dan McCready spent over $8 million, had an 8-point lead.
Mm.
If he had just won his base, he would have killed Mark Harris.
Yeah.
But he didn't run to the base.
Mm.
I believe he lost the election last week with the ALC
Mm.
because the base our Democratic Party
Oh,
is
my.
younger and browner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Younger and browner.
Yeah.
The Republican Party is getting whiter and older.
Yeah.
So you run to that base. To win an election, you have to at least get your base out, and then you hope to flip other people. That's how you win an election.
Right.
Now, to win a primary, you got to win your base, which is why all their jargon, which I thought was funny, that they used as their evidence and their quotes, Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh said.
Mm-hmm.
Rush Limbaugh said. It was really funny because that is who they used as like
Their model, role model.
Yes, the Rush Limbaugh. So it was funny.
People are listening.
But
to
I could
Rush.
tell, I could tell that didn't really resonate with that crowd because there wasn't a lot of like, oh yeah, Rush. It's like that's like a 4-year-old type of strategy.
Been there, done that.
But as we know,
Yeah.
and they talked about this, 6 out of the 10 people who are going to vote in this election are going to be over 55 years old.
Yeah.
Only 2 of 10 people I think is going to be younger individuals.
Yeah.
And so
There may not actually be any young Republicans.
the
they're
lady
only
from
I
Fayetteville.
really
The
think
lady from Fayetteville.
I think they're really counting on the
Oh,
millennials
yeah.
to vote.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
least Stevie talked about
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
so
She
did
did.
Lee.
Yeah. I,
Insinuated. I don't think she really got out there.
I think-
Did she say that she was sad she wasn't part of that?
yes,
either?
well, I
Yeah.
was actually really impressed by the fact that I did not realize that. I mean, I knew it. But
What
I-
fact are you talking about?
The
age.
young lady from Fayetteville, she's a millennial.
Yes.
Yes.
And she, yeah,
Stevie.
Yeah.
and there is this. We don't realize that much in the Democratic Party because we know that millennials. There's a very large percentage of millennials. They're not as vocal, but that are Republican and very conservative and that are pro-life.
And she's
And-
very, I feel her that she's very confident and
Yes.
she's very strong.
She is
Yes.
strong.
Yes.
But my problem with her is you hear the same
It
thing
is
from
kind of-
her
yeah.
every time. And we were talking about that at Ed's meeting last Friday. And
Yeah.
I said, I don't agree with
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
I'm pro-choice.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to tell me what I'm going to do
Yes.
with my body. So
That's right.
I don't
And
agree
I-
flat out. But
I think she's an attractive candidate, obviously.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
But I think she's kind of one-dimensional. I mean, I did meet her and speak to her briefly, but
She compared her. She said
And-
she's
and
a Republican AOC.
Yeah.
well, right.
That's what she
And,
compared.
and,
That's what she
and
said.
I can
Okay.
tell you
Yeah.
her Twitter following has blown up.
Yeah.
She went from like 50 to, you know.
Oh, she did mention
But
that.
don't you
Seven
think?
or
But
eight
and
thousand.
we're going to end on that. But
Yeah.
don't you think that is? And I've heard this kind of complaint from members of my family and also people when I was in the hospital. In my years in the hospitality business, the complaint about millennials, it's about them. That's how Dan McCready runs. That's how that's how the Republicans complain about AOC, and that's how I saw her as. It was about me, social media.
I'm a single
me,
parent.
it was about
Yeah.
me.
I need a right
Amendment, I need
That-
my
it
AK-49,
was-
45.
It was about and
So
those who are
so
millennials-
you're saying that the millennial candidates are talking about themselves. They're not talking about
yes.
solving
What-
And
problems
that
that
turns
people are
off
having.
older voters.
Yeah.
Because older voters, it's there's different things that they
Right.
They're expecting,
Right.
yeah. We
Whereas
just wanna
millennial
see
voters,
something
it's
different.
usually about they don't use they use
No.
me, my,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
And I
social
think,
media. and
I
all-
think I learned this very early on in my campaign that even for city council is that, you know, if you're fresh and you're new to politicking, you want to say, I've got these great ideas and I want to tell you about my great ideas, and that's really not a good approach.
Mm.
Your approach is, I know there are problems out there.
Yes.
Well,
I
you
know
also
I know
gotta
you've
keep-
got healthcare problems. You're facing high drug costs. I know you're very concerned about the environment. I know you're concerned about these things. I want to tell you how we can solve those
What
problems.
can I do to help?
That's what,
Yeah,
yeah,
what-
that's
yeah,
what,
what can I do to help?
and
That's
I
right.
don't need to understand that
Mm.
you're not going on your own to Washington. You're not just gonna sit there and be just you.
That's
You
right.
gotta learn and kind of study whoever's gonna be around you so you can be able to kind of latch in. Doesn't matter if it's a Republican or Democrat, what are we gonna do
That's
together?
right. And when I responded to McCready's post about sending his contribution back to Omar, I said, I'll accept your donation,
Yes.
and I'll accept it because I'm willing to work with you on the things that we agree with. I'm the anti-war candidate. You know, I know she's interested, and I really appreciated the fact that she grilled the war criminal, the Republican war criminal, Elliot Abrams, because what we're doing in Venezuela is terrible. So I appreciated that, and I would have been sitting right next to her, presumably, and going, yeah.
One of the things that I noticed, and Jeff, and this is, everyone has different reasons why they vote for individuals. But one of the things that I noticed when people are running for office is I look not only at their platform and what they stand for, but I also look at the caliber of the people that follow them. And so for an example, when Hillary Clinton ran, the individuals that, especially the people that ran the Hillary Clinton North Carolina group, were very, very mean, hateful individuals. When Bernie started to run, the social media, their strategy was to just demonize Bernie. It was a very nasty type of thing. The Bernie people were like, they were more positive, and that's why we endorsed Bernie Sanders, because he was bringing more positive young people. They were very angry. It's Hillary, you know, they were still upset that Obama beat her 8 years ago. So they were very, very big. Those individuals switched over to Dan McCready. When you look at Dan McCready's followers on social media, they're pretty nasty individuals. There's very few of them that are very positive. When you look at Dan Bishop's followers, they're kind of mean as well. I will say that the person that I thought was really, I was impressed by was Stoney.
I was too.
Stoney, I was impressed.
Really different.
Well,
we've only met him a couple of times, but
I like him.
I think he's a
I don't know him that well. So.
And I liked them last night because I missed Matthew, but I'm waiting to hear Matthew.
So, okay, I did get a text from Matthew.
And what happened?
So Matthew was at a fundraiser last night in D.C. He did not make it. He sends his apologies.
Oh well, and we would have been good because I'll be honest.
That's what he said.
Why did his representative say last night that we should stay tuned and hear what Matt has to say?
I guess
today?
because of the fundraising.
Maybe there was
he might get some kind of endorsement.
Yeah. Well, we know Senator. What's his name is endorsed him.
Rand
Paul has endorsed him. Well, one of the things that I thought was interesting, because I'll be honest with everyone, the reason I went was to listen to Matthew. I mean, that's
the reason I was going. I missed my husband's dinner because of that.
When we found out that he wasn't gonna, we were like,
and then I turned around. Is this the young?
Well, I think Stoney is more personable.
Stoney did a good job.
He's pretty good. I shook his hand, so yeah, he did.
And he knows what he's doing.
And Stoney said some things.
He's got empathy.
Stoney said some things that were
mojo.
I was like,
Stoney said some things that were just really connected, I think, with just working class, regular individuals, or what I call people with a little bit of rationality. Where Dan Bishop's whole thing was the reason that he should be elected was because he can put an organization together. He can run a campaign. He can do this. It was, and he kind of sounded.
He's the get off my lawn Republican.
Dan actually, and I sent you that message. When you listen to Dan Bishop talk, he sounded like this bumbling old. He was like blah 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 blah. It was like he didn't sound. Stoney sounded like someone that we would all sit and talk to here and here. And he said things like, what he would like to do is he would like to bring Democrats, Libertarians, and unaffiliated back into the Republican Party. I've never heard that from individuals.
He
said, I'm going to work, and I'll make sure to bring them back because I know they're working.
Has anyone ever?
Has
anyone ever heard Dan McCready say, "I would like to bring people into the Democratic Party"?
No, but I can tell you that when I go to these groups and I meet these people, a lot of people are leaving the Republican Party to become Democrats, and all of these huge clubs that are forming in response to Trump. This isn't a small movement. This is a huge movement, and so that party in Charlotte is struggling.
Yes, which is why I wish they had elected John Powell as their
chairperson. So upset because he was going to change
would
the
be
direction.
The individual.
And you could hear it last night. I mean, it's the same old stuff.
Yes.
And I'll say one thing that I'm very concerned about, and I have said it to Larry a few times. I have friends all over the United States. I don't think they realize how much people are watching what is going on in the 9th District. Everybody talks to me, well, do you go to these things? We see on Facebook. What do you think? And I said, I think they're clueless. They need to change something, and it's not happening, and that's got to go to the people that are running this thing.
But I do think, and this is one of the things that Stoney hit on, which I thought was really makes sense. this, and I hope, whenever, this myth that if you raise a lot of money, you can win elections, we're like on the tail end of it. Hillary, or John Ossoff would be a congressperson. Dan McCready wouldn't be running again. He would have been elected.
Yep.
So this myth about raising a lot of money is not true. It's you have to have at least a message to be able to, no matter how much money you raise, if you don't have that message, and that I think shows.
You have to have a visible.
Well, I think that shows
platform.
that shows the weakness of Dan McCready.
Yeah.
Even with all the publicity of getting a retry, of Joe Biden endorsing him, of everyone endorsing him. Yes, Biden endorsed him in the last election.
Hair sniffer?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Well,
sorry.
he's not going to say anything now. Even with all of that, Dan McCready is still having a hard time being decent in the polling.
I don't understand what his position is on anything.
Well, that's what everyone says, and I
To
think
me, he's just being bought. That's the
Oh.
only thing that I can see.
So I'm actually slogging through one of his appearances. Someone referred me to a 1 hour session he did with supporters, and I
Yes.
started going through it and trying to take notes. I am actually going to respond to it. Because it feels like so far the people in the audience who have asked questions have just thrown him softballs, and so he's really just he's just testing himself out on the road because I don't think he's really comfortable, right? And he is trying to build his confidence. And if I were him, I would do the exact same thing. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that it feels a little green. It feels like he is in over his head. It feels like he doesn't want to get challenging questions, and it feels like, that bubble could pop at any time. The Omar thing is not going to pop it.
Oh, I think it did. I think it did.
Somewhat.
I think it did.
Well, you and I disagree on that
somewhat.
because I think he's going to recover from
No,
it.
this is the reason I think it did. The reason I think it did was the same reason me calling him a P hurt me.
Yeah.
When you lose that section of individuals,
Yeah.
they no longer are trying to help you. They've moved on to another campaign.
That's fine.
And
That's
so
fine. I know there's a lot of anger.
I don't think
cannot-
it has hurt him because imagine the people that are supporting him and
But they're very small.
But they're supporting him, and onto their eyes and onto their community, he did good. She's black. We don't need her. Blah blah blah. So
No.
you cannot
that's not
compare
Democrats.
yourself. You
That's the
cannot
Democrats.
compare yourself when you call them that name, and that hurt you, making him seem like he's getting hurt for that. Now, one thing that I can tell you that's gonna hurt him is every single person that I've met that asked him or has conversations with him. What are you planning to do? What are your plans if you get elected? I'm gonna create a veterans committee. I'm like, we don't need that.
Well, he can't create a veterans committee because his
We don't need that. Well, he wants to
Yeah.
create. That's what he's lying. That's what he's making.
I know.
So they're gonna.
And we should try to bring in a veteran or two.
Yes.
And that was our next.
Yes.
We do.
That's
It's
our
on
next
the
step.
schedule. It's
Exactly.
on the thing.
But
What a
what
segue,
What I was
Jeff.
going to say was the people. This is one of the things that I think that people still lose light. Dan McCready is running as a Democrat. Even if he doesn't want to be a Democrat, he's on the ticket as a Democrat. He cannot win without at least winning the Democratic base. The Democratic base is younger and browner. In our 6 counties, it's mainly African American, loyal Democrats.
The rural,
If they, which I believe they gave up on Hillary, once they give up on you, you have to at least carry them to have a chance. Because the people he has to flip is who he's focusing on. If you lose that base, the young people that are volunteering, the people around the country that are sharing your Facebook feeds, that are doing once they give up on you, and that's really who fuels the Democratic Party. Now, when we say it hasn't hurt him with those unaffiliated, that's great. But those aren't the people he needs to win. He needs the Democratic base to at least win. And that was the problem he had the first time, is that he took the Democratic base for granted. So what's going to happen is you're less likely going to have a person of color who's Democrat speak kindly about him now. They're not going to speak badly about him. They're just not going to promote him. So the signs that you see out, like there's 2 signs in my neighborhood and there's a couple on Providence Road, I know who those people are because they had my signs. They're white people between 45 and 65. Those signs will stay out but you won't see any additional signs from people of color putting Dan McCready signs out. The same way that you're not going to see a Trump sign.
I've seen a
because
lot of
the brand has been
Russian.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
I
Oh,
can't-
rushing.
Rushing.
one of the things.
Is it rushing or Russian?
Rushing.
Rushing.
So Stoney did a really good job. I was
Stoney
very
Rushing.
impressed.
Yeah.
Early voting started today
That's
across the 9th Congressional District. If you're a Republican and if you're unaffiliated, you can also vote in the
I'm gonna go and vote.
Republican primary. And then the official election is the 14th, and then hopefully we'll see how it does, and then we'll reset.
Yeah.
And in all fairness, and people, for some reason, people, and I say this because I'm not a typical
You
Latinx
think we're gonna go
individual.
all the way to November?
We'll find out. But here's the deal.
Let's hope not.
And this is a question that I have of all of you.
I'm a
There's-
secular candidate, but I'm praying that it doesn't go to
November.
I hope I'm like a half glass full kind of individual. I believe that every rational adult has the ability to make a comment like I would say Trump's an idiot, because there are times where I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe Dan McCready certain things about him, but I'm not just him. I said the exact same thing about Robert Pittenger. Those who look at what I said in 2015-16, it's the exact same thing I said Robert Pittenger as I said about Dan McCready. Elitist, rich person from South Charlotte, privileged individual. The exact same thing. I have not changed it just now it's Dan McCready. But here's the deal. Every individual has the ability to reset. After I lost the primary, I reset myself. And I looked at all the individuals, I looked at you to who I was going to endorse. So this myth that Latinx individuals or whatever are human beings can't reset, I can chew gum and walk at the same time. After the Republican primary, I will reset myself and I will look at the 4 candidates that are running. And then my family will make the determination who will best fit to represent my family values for the time they will be in office, which will be just a year, because they have to start running again in 2 months after that, for 2020. And I will make that determination. You were the individual the last time.
Yeah.
When we reset and look at those 4 individuals that are there, we will make the evaluation. So for people to think that just because you're running again,
Yeah, Stoney and I are going to arm wrestle.
we're all going to
We're going to
reset.
arm wrestle.
But every
I
individual has that
Simone, if
ability.
you want them on.
And so I have the ability to wipe the slate clean like that. Etch and
But not
sketch.
everybody does.
Well, I can etch and sketch it. I can erase it, and I can reset.
Yeah.
Dan McCready may not do anything now, but once the primary, maybe he'll start running as a Democrat. Maybe he will say LGBT people deserve the same rights in the military and veterans as I
He
do.
hasn't said it for what is it?
I know, but I have hope.
Well,
maybe he will say that immigrants have the
Right,
right to do. Maybe he will stop using those dog and whistle words like values. That's something that Republicans use, that Dan McCready uses.
Yeah.
Our values, immigrants, if they uphold our values, well, I know what his values are. I don't want those kind of
Put our
values.
country
Yes,
over party.
and maybe he will start running. If he starts running as a Democrat, he has an ability. We all have. Our attention spans aren't very long in America. We have our goal is to want to see people succeed. Maybe he will succeed. Maybe he'll do that.
As Gore Vidal calls us, we're the United States of amnesia.
That's true.
Oh,
All right.
It's
Constitutional quote of the week.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about veterans of color because we had an individual that was supposed to call in.
Yeah.
And I think it's unfair for us to talk about that unless.
But we can talk about veterans at another time.
Yes, because it's very
Because
important.
because I've written about it, and I've got a what I think is a unique program about how to restructure the Veterans Administration.
We definitely need to have, and we invite veterans to come and sit at
Yes.
the table. If you know anyone that it's a veteran or one of your family members, invite them. Tell them to get in contact with us.
And those who have not watched our show for a long time, go back to one of our earlier shows. We actually had a show called Serving. Remember we had that show?
Serving.
And I thought it was really great because the person who represented Matthew Ridenhour mentioned it last night. He talked about how sick and tired all of us are about Dan McCready saying I'm a Marine.
yes.
Everyone's sick and tired of hearing Dan McCready say I'm a Marine, I'm a Marine, I'm a Marine. And the representative from Matthew Ridenhour said that Matthew would be perfect to run against him because he can take that away and he can say, all right, you're a Marine, great, now let's talk about issues.
Yeah.
No, but then Dan would just revert to this. It's so wonderful to see such a diverse group of people, Republicans and Democrats,
Janice,
We're
you need
killing
to come
brown
and sit
people in
here.
foreign countries
Yes.
where we shouldn't be in the first place.
But I thought it was really good because we did talk about different ways people served, and as the representative for Matthew Redenhauer was talking about that, it went back to what we talked about on the show that we had, and go back and watch it. Maybe we'll talk about it again. That people serve our country in so many different ways. We all salute and we all commend individuals who served us as professional military members and veterans. Of course we salute you, what you do. But we also serve
Salute.
Salute
and serve people who serve us as single parents.
Yes.
People who serve us as as teachers who serve our country, who serve our elected officials who serve our country. People serve in different ways.
That's
There
right.
was a
We've got
time.
a very
Yes.
dynamic economy.
Yes.
There's a lot of people with specialties, and the
As
labor
artists.
is divided, and that's the source of our great prosperity.
But one of the things that I think that people in Dan McCready's generation don't understand, especially after 9/11, it became all
Yeah.
about, you got to say, thank you for your service, thank you for your service. It was like, if you don't, you're not patriotic.
I know. So there's these
Yeah.
reverential behaviors that have built up in
Reverent.
the wake of 9/11.
Barbara?
Translate.
In the wake
I
of
know
the
Yes.
expansion of the national security
Right.
state, which
Yes.
I am opposed
Yeah.
to. So a lot of these behaviors don't sit very well with me. It's like,
But
you
see,
know,
why don't we salute our fire, our first responders,
Our
our fire,
teachers, or
you know,
our,
our
well,
the single parent.
people can choose how they want
Yeah.
to pay respects to
But
other
one of the
people
things that
and
we have
the
to-
things
Well,
that
each
they do.
organization.
well, we have to remind the Dan McCready generation, and one of the things that I think he does not, I don't know, I can't speak for him, but the people that are so adamant about, like I was, the guy who ran for city council member, who was our Hispanic president, who resigned, he was all over my case. How dare you, Christian, comment on Dan McCready's service when you've never had the ability to serve? And it was like, oh, he was like so up, and like they were like lovers or something. And it was no, it was the most. It was
Are
crazy.
you talking about Ryan?
Yeah, whatever his name is.
Okay.
Yeah, and so one of the things that I understand what they're saying was that, you don't understand, when my grandfather was in World War II, Hispanic people and black people could not serve on the front line.
Yeah.
So you could be in the military, but you were still second-class citizens.
And
There are
now
women
they're
that
trying to
cannot
avoid
serve.
that as well.
Yeah, there are women that cannot serve. So there was a time when I got out of college when I was about to join the Air Force, but I would not check that mark that I was gay, because then you had to hide it, and then we had Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So I could not serve because I did not want to hide the fact that I was gay.
Yeah.
So there are individuals that don't have the luxury to serve and have had to serve in different ways. So to say just because this individual decided to serve is more, that their patriotism is more than someone who didn't have the opportunity to serve. Some young man who maybe was arrested on marijuana charges, who has a record, who can't serve, who's just as patriot. To me, that is it's silly.
And see, now, before and back in the days, it was that Latinos and
Yes.
African Americans. Now in the days, they're trying to change that into
Yes.
no LGBTs, no
Well,
homosexuals,
there's now a
nobody.
transgender ban.
Yes,
and
the
all, and so
transgender.
forth. And so,
We want to acknowledge Margarita. Margarita is our weekly fan every week. She's there.
yes.
Thank you, Margarita. Yes,
Margarita.
we do believe in that. And if you know any veterans that would like to come and sit on the table and have a conversation with us, we'll be more than happy to have them here as a guest.
So are we
Constitution.
doing
Yeah,
okay on time?
yeah. Constitutional
Yes.
quote of the week, and I want to apologize, people, if you're watching this, and I'm going to notice this later, that my right eye keeps blinking. My contact is dirty.
Oh.
And I can't
Oh,
see.
and your eye can't help it.
Here, let me wash it for you.
Constitutional quote of the week.
Amendment number 17.
So this is for the,
You gonna
Barbara,
read?
you gonna read
Sure, I'll
it?
read.
Yes,
Barbara.
Barbara.
This is for the direct election.
Okay, the
Of
Senate of the
senators.
United States shall be
Louder.
composed.
Yeah.
The Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, elected by the people thereof for 6 years, and each senator shall have 1 vote. The electors in each state shall have the qualification requisite for electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislators. When vacancies happen in the representation of any state in the Senate, the executive authority of each state shall issue writs of election to fill such vacancies, provided the legislature of any state may empower the executive thereof to make temporary appointments until the people fill the vacancies by election as the legislature may direct. This amendment shall not be construed to affect the election or term of any senator chosen before it becomes valid as part of the Constitution.
So before that, senators were elected by the state houses, the state legislatures sent two senators, right? So I happen to believe that was a better system. So I would be for repeal of the 17th Amendment.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
yeah,
Very interesting.
yeah.
Anybody else have an
I'll have
opinion
to do
before
some
we
research on
wrap it up
that.
here?
That's interesting, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
It
listen,
was
this has been a
always-
very, very interesting show, and I want to thank all of y'all for being here and being patient for letting me. I will admit, y'all, I was. Anybody who follows Minister Mack,
Yeah.
did y'all see her post yesterday? She posted and how frustrated she was. She'd been in court all day long, and she was in her car and she was in tears because, when you see other people being marginalized, as that's what she's the president of NAACP. There is a time we're all human beings, and there's a time where you can only be so strong, and then you just like
Yeah.
the weight. It's hard. Y'all know because y'all are involved in things. There are times where I'm sure you think to yourself, why do I do this?
Oh yes.
I have a Cano, y'all. He
Oh.
helps me through it.
Well, everybody needs, someone. But when I was on the treadmill last
We need
week,
a little
Cano
Cano bobblehead
yes,
doll that we can sell.
when I was on the treadmill last week and I saw that posting that Dan McCready had done about the Congressperson, I was like so like. Everything just went out of me, and the reason it went out of me was because she gets death threats. There are people even within our own party that have not come to her defense for many reasons or whatever, and I know how it's like, not anywhere close to what her life is like or whatever, but I know how it's like when the strength that it must take her to do what she does, even with the amount of all the stuff against her. And then to have a person, and I said this on my treadmill, the little punk, to have a punk kid say she's divisive, and that, first of all, who gives a crap what you think
I
about
know,
her?
and
It was
basically,
so
he's
frustrating.
just taken the conservative bait.
Yes.
He's just it's out there on a hook.
Lip
He
service.
took it, and all of his followers who followed up
Yep.
on the
Yep.
on the tweet knew exactly what he did.
Yeah, it was,
No.
and that frustrated me, and then I said, I went like that. So
Did
then
you walk faster?
No, I was on, and I kept thinking, my natural instinct was, I guess, kind of a Trumpish instinct. I hate to say it like that. My natural instinct is, we got to defend her, we got to fight back, we got to do this.
Yeah.
I said, you know what, Christian? Hold on a second. Let's wait.
Count to 10.
There were so many people around the country that came to her defense,
Yeah.
and there were so many people in the city. Our
Even
North
I
Carolina
came to her
Democratic Party-
defense,
yeah.
and I disagree with
And
her
that-
9
that-
out of
that
10
was-
times.
that
So
was
sometimes
nice.
you need a defense.
That's
That
right.
was
Yes.
nice to see people coming to her defense, because so often people don't come to people's defense like that, and
Yeah.
and that did make me. I do hope, and as I know some of you who said this won't affect him,
Mhm.
I hope that he has his staff,
Yeah.
that they have a pause moment and they say, all right, this is not something that we should, I don't know how they want to deal with it or whatever.
Right.
But
Quit giving them ideas.
but this is what's so interesting.
I think
The
they've got.
Mecklenburg
I think they've
Let
got
them
a
work.
They've got a very clean plan.
But the
Yeah.
Mecklenburg County Democratic Party and the state party chairperson, when I made the mistake and called him that P word, told me that I had to apologize. They told the whole media and everybody I had to apologize. Not one of them has told him that he needs to apologize. And that is, bless your heart, racism.
And actually, they even took you out of
They did.
of the
Well, they did later.
you know,
Yeah. But
stuff.
that is
Yeah.
a bless your heart racism and bigotry.
Yeah.
Is that people are held to a different standard in many ways. And that is one of the things that frustrates the heck out of me. The good news is that what we see from local elections and from county elections is progressives are winning seats, that those individuals are even last night, I saw a glimmer of hope within the Republican Party. I saw a glimmer of hope.
We
in what
almost have a
Sally said.
whole table of Democrats there.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
I saw a glimmer of hope.
I know you are the independent.
So
Another voice of
that is the
reason
good.
here.
So even with all the things that I say
I think we were
and that
just
we
two
say,
of us.
there is a light at the end of the tunnel that our country does have the ability, as Jorge says, which we will say, Jorge has announced running for city council.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll have Jorge next Wednesday here.
Oh, that's right. Yes,
yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So, anywho, we're going to end on that wonderful note, and I want to thank everyone for joining us and for continuing to let us all. Yes, we're going to go around and tell us where you're going to be at next or any event you want to do. And I'm going to go behind the camera because we still don't have a director. And so I want to thank everyone for joining us. It's been, I hope everyone had a wonderful.
And I want to share for all the women that are wearing jeans today.
Oh, yes! So
Jeans,
today
jeans,
is.
jeans. You got jeans on too.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Well, I don't know if I should show it.
And I missed that memo. I totally would be sporting jeans, but I missed that memo.
Yes.
I missed it
I
too.
should've-
It's for all our women that are being, what is it, sexually harassed
Yes.
or sexually assault.
Sexual
Yes.
assault, rape, and the survivors of those acts
Yes.
today.
We definitely support them.
And then tell us where you're going to be next. And
I am going to continue my quest to try to get more involved in the opioid crisis here in Charlotte and try to help do something because I personally suffered a loss, my sister. So, but it's not just about my sister. When I see that ad every morning that we have 5 people dying every day, I want to help save 5 more families not feel
Great.
the way ours did. And that's my whole thing.
thank you.
Great. I'll be around.
Hey, where are you going to be next? Anything particular?
Remember my Spanish speaking that are
Yes,
watching here?
a show on Tuesdays
Be
at 1
there
o'clock.
on Tuesdays
Yes.
from 12 to 1, Espacio Latino with Ruth Perez.
Yes.
There are 2 meetings coming up, April 28th and May in Asheville and May 2nd here in Charlotte on torture and North Carolina's
wow.
role in torture. These are going to be. I'll post it to CafeYPanDulce. I might even do a little 5-minute blast when I'm up there because I'm going to drive up to Asheville on Sunday and go to the Colonel Wilkerson, who used to work for Colin Powell, and is very much behind this initiative to expose some of the evil deeds that occurred in our state.
Wow.
You know, Jeff,
Interesting.
you do more things that are congressional-like
Yeah.
than. All right, I'm not going to conspire. Why do you keep complimenting Jeff?
All the time.
I'm sorry.
So
Tara.
So there's a community meeting and listening session. 2 of my personal friends, Susan Rodriguez McDowell and Representative Harris, Commissioner Susan Rodriguez McDowell and Representative Wesley Harris, will be at the Valentine Hotel, April 27th at 10 o'clock.
Saturday.
It's, I believe the format is going to be the 2 elected officials are going to give an update and then you can ask them questions.
Oh, wonderful.
So come with your questions.
Yeah. Excellent. And the person who painted this picture, his wife's birthday is tomorrow. I want to wish her happy birthday, Heather. And I believe we'll be celebrating with them. But also, Tiger Woods is coming to town next week for the Wells Fargo. And I've got tickets, so I'm very excited.
No, you did not.
I have never seen Tiger Woods and are the Masters champion, so I'm going to be there. But I want to thank. Oh, sorry, Ruth, taking your spot. End the show.
Bye, everybody. Bye. Adios. Adios.
Adios, amigos.